Hello and welcome to another episode of the CG Garage. This is episode number 352, featuring Isabelle van der Woodsen, also known as Belle. And I have met Isabelle, or Belle, over the first time I met her was at ASAI, which was a couple of years ago, maybe 2018, 2017. I'm not exactly remembering, but it was here in Los Angeles, and she was winning an award for the American Society of Architectural Illustrators. She is a fantastic architectural illustrator and really interesting. She decided she was going to be in LA. She sent me an email or a message on Instagram, and she says, "Hey, do you want to get together?" And I said, "How about you just come over to my house and we record a podcast in person?" It was the first time I had done a podcast in person since the pandemic happened, and it was really scary but fun. So we did it in my backyard, and we celebrated with a really good bottle of beer to enjoy together. And I promise her next time she comes over, I'm not going to force her to do a podcast. We can just hang out and talk like regular people. But Kristen, what did you think of Isabelle?
She's a fab woman. I really want to meet her one day. She talks about how Inception, the movie, is kind of like what drove her into like wanting to being in architecture. So that was just a cool story. And she just has this like incredible need to learn and just like keep going no matter like how tough it is. She has that story when she was studying at State of Art in Venice, kind of being frustrated with not knowing all the programs, but she kind of just like kept through it, went to London and did some of the 3DS London meetups. And that's kind of how she got her first job. And she's just kind of been traveling ever since. But I like that she says, because she is such a traveler, her the story that she creates in her visualizations and stuff is more like vignettes, close-ups, and like making a comfy, cozy feeling, because that's what she would want to be sold. So I almost feel like her traveling makes her better at what she does because she's creating something that's desirable to a lot of people. So
yeah, absolutely. No, she's very, very interesting woman, and I really like talking with her. She was on a panel, I remember, when we did it, the ASAI thing, and that's the first time I think I met her at all, and so she was really interesting and very engaging at that time. I was, very. One of the things I think is very interesting in her is her nomadic life, right? She does travel a lot, even during the pandemic she does. And she's somehow landed in Dubai right now, which I also find it kind of funny that she's in the middle of the desert, accidentally moved to Dubai, which is the way she put it, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, she's really great. And I really enjoyed having this conversation with her. All right, it's rounding up towards the end of the year, so we're not having that many events anymore coming up, but we do have one product announcement, and that is that V-Ray 5 Update 2 for Maya is out. We've got several interesting updates on there. You should definitely check them out, including some of the new USD things that we've been adding to it. Definitely check that out, and you can check that out at chaos.com. But if people want to know more about the podcast, Kristen, where can they go?
You can go to facebook.com/CG Garage Podcast or chaos.com/CG Garage. And if you'd like to watch us, go to youtube.com/Chaos Group TV.
Perfect. And if you have any ideas for podcasts, please let us know. Email us labs@chaosgroup.com. We always love to hear your suggestions, and we often try to follow up on them as well. But if you'd like to rate this podcast, don't forget to rate us on Apple Podcast and leave us a review there as well while you're at it, and share us with all of your friends and family. But for now, enjoy episode number 352 with Belle van der Woodsen.
Welcome to another CG Garage, where the Chaos Group talks. You'll know it's over when the last bucket drops. We're gonna fire off rays in high dynamic range. We know that ambient occlusion is passé. Global illumination won't lead you astray. And while image-based lighting is really swell, you need to make sure everything has Fresnel.
All right, it's time to break it open. Delirium Noel, fantastic. We're celebrating, of course, because I have not done a podcast in person in 18 months.
A long time.
It's a long time, so it's good to do that.
Look at that.
Cheers. I'll wait for that.
It's gonna be strong.
It is a little. Belgian beers tend to be a little bit stronger, but that's why we have smaller glasses, and you and I will share this bottle. I'll have to wait for that to settle a little bit. But anyway, how are you? So, you are visiting in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. I've been in LA for the last 5 days now. I finally adjusted to the jet lag, and now I can enjoy the day.
Good.
And yeah, I enjoy the sun and the food and the people here a lot.
Yes, indeed. So last time we met, we was at ASAI,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that was in Venice, right? And tell me, like, what were you?
No, I think it was in LA.
It was in LA,
Yeah,
right?
we did
But
the
I mean
panel.
Venice. I mean Venice,
Oh
California.
yeah. It was like
Venice, California. Yep. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool because I just met Keely the day before, and then I went to the exhibition that she organized close to the Walk of Fame.
Yep.
And it was really cool seeing like all my friends' artworks. And then she asked me, "Oh, hey, we've got this panel on tomorrow, and someone has to cancel. And would you like to come?" And I said, "Yeah, of course."
Right.
So I had no idea what it was about.
Right.
But I think it was really cool, all the people from different industries sitting there, and then having the panel in.
This was the one at Nomen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I was hosting it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
That was really cool. Coming from nowhere and then sitting on a panel in Hollywood. That was really fun.
It was fun. Well, cool. Okay. Well, great. Well, listen. That was a lot of fun, and we can sort of get to how we connected. But I want to know your origin story as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your background, and what you obviously have been involved in visualization and for a little bit now, and then or for a while now. But what got you interested in it? What's your interest in architecture and in computer graphics?
So. Basically, I've got a background in architecture, but how it all started was, I think, when I was about 13 years old, because I got really interested in like technical drawings and stuff. And so I did like a course at school for about 3 years. And then, unfortunately, I decided not to go to school and started working in a bank for 3 years. But I just knew from the beginning I didn't really like it. And I think I want to go back to architecture later on. And then I also watched this movie called Inception. And I think this had a huge influence in my life, just because all the VFX and everything, and the architect who designed like all those imaginary places in their dreams. I really thought, oh wow, I really want to be an architect. I think this is exactly my thing. And I didn't know back then that there's something where you can study VFX. Mm-hmm. So I studied architecture. I was really happy about it. And so I studied architecture in Germany for 3 years. Then I went to do my master's in Austria for about 1.5 years. But in the beginning, it was really difficult to keep up with them because they were really good in Photoshop and renderings, and I had no idea how to do all of this. And I was really lucky because there was one weekend where this local render company did a workshop in my uni. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the guys, he always stood next to me because nothing was working on my laptop, nothing at all. And I was really frustrated, and I don't know, but somehow I really liked it. And then I did a few visuals for my project at the end of the semester. Mm-hmm. And my professor was absolutely in love with it. And later on, I met him again at an event, and he asked me, "Oh, Isabel, would you like to take part in this competition with us?" And it's like a bridge competition, and they won the last 2 times. And I said, yeah, of course I would love to do that. But then I also had a job in an architecture office. So I was working 8 hours in this architecture office. And then after work, I was working another 6 hours with them, working on that competition and doing the renders and updating every day the new model and everything. So it was really stressful, but also really cool. Mm-hmm. It was really like this team spirit. And turned out we also won this competition. So the first real job I had, it was paid. Probably now not my biggest or my best project, but
Right.
it was really cool. Like the feeling that it gave me, I was like, I think I really want to do this,
Yeah.
like as a career.
And when was this? Around what time?
That
What
was
year?
in 2017.
2017.
yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry, 2016.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then basically after that, I decided to go to a school, like do a master class. So I went to Venice in Italy, State of Art Academy,
Yeah.
and for 4 weeks I did this master class, and I think it was about the same thing. Nothing worked. Every time the teacher had to come to my place, I got really frustrated. We were working with V-Ray back then. I had nightmares about V-Ray.
Okay.
I was basically talking about V-Ray because I shared a room with two other girls, and they were like, Isabel, you were talking again? You don't like V-Ray? It's like, it was a tough time.
Okay.
But yeah, it's always when you learn something new, it's difficult. And I think I was the only one who never opened 3ds Max before. And I thought, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the same like Cinema 4D, but it was not. And yeah, so I've learned a lot in those 4 weeks, and I knew, okay, when I go back to Germany, I have to do everything again. And that's exactly what I did.
Okay.
And so I built my portfolio with V-Ray a bit, but then I also tried to get into Corona because this was working better with my laptop back then. And yeah, then I tried to apply for jobs, and it took about, I think, a year until I found something that I was comfortable with.
Okay. What jobs were you looking for? Architecture jobs or visualization
So
jobs?
yeah, visualization jobs basically, but in an architecture office.
Got it.
I felt like my friends who were running all those studios, they didn't really want to take me on because they thought, oh, maybe she's not good enough yet. And yeah, I was disappointed. Like, I'm honest, I was really disappointed.
Really?
But then I thought, okay, I start anyways. So I went to this architectural practice in West London. And yeah, I was fitting their skill set basically.
Okay.
They were looking for a junior, but also with someone who has a architectural background.
Yep.
And yeah, I did this for about 8 months. But then, yeah, I got a bit bored with the same kind of architecture all the time. The quality was not what I wanted to produce. I didn't have enough time for the projects. And so, of course, I started to look for another job. And then it was really lucky, coincidence maybe as well, that Recent Spaces was looking for someone.
Right.
And I think this was maybe the second time that I went to 3DS London. That event is every month. And then I saw them standing there in the entrance, and I said, oh, hi. And they were like, oh, we're looking for someone. And I said, I'm looking for something. And then, I showed them my portfolio, and I said, oh, yeah, so on the next day I also have an interview with another company. And then they said, okay, you also come in and have an interview with us.
Okay.
And so I landed my first gig in a really good studio.
Yep.
And was the happiest person. I was like, okay, I finally made it.
Yes.
Because coming from Germany, I didn't really have a plan B. I know I could go back and work in an architecture office, but I really didn't want to do that. So
okay.
I was just glad after 8 months that I found that studio where I really loved the people, loved the work, loved the eye they have for the details, and like that's something I really do in my work as well. So yeah.
Okay. So you're in London now, and that's where you've been doing all your visualization stuff, right?
So that was my first 1.5 years with them as well. And then I still thought, oh, I'm still young, so I want to see more than just Europe. So I had started to apply again, and I thought, okay, maybe let's try the US. Okay. And I just put on my CV, I think it was on CG Architect. Okay. And someone saw it, and I didn't think anyone would reply to me because it's all so difficult with the visas and everything.
Right.
But they responded pretty quickly, and then I was like, wow, maybe I actually have a chance to go to the US.
Okay.
And yeah, then I tried to apply to another company as well, where I know the boss in person, and then we had lots of chats with different kind of people. And that's how I basically got the job that I was doing last year in New York.
Okay.
So I was really happy to finally be in that city, I think, where everyone wants to live at least once.
Okay.
I think as an architect, it's probably the most inspiring city with all those classical buildings. And yeah, I've been there once as a tourist before, then with recent spaces as well, and it was just such a big dream. And then I got the job, and then COVID hit after 2 months, and you don't want to be in New York when there's COVID because there's no private space.
No, I can't imagine. You have to use an elevator to go anywhere, and you don't want to be in an elevator.
Yeah, especially when you have to go 44 floors up. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that must have been really challenging. So you were stuck in New York during COVID, huh?
Yeah, I was stuck in New York. I didn't see any friends for about 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was okay. I mean, I really liked my flat. I had a really nice view, almost like you, but more buildings. I think I've grown a lot as an artist during this time because work was all I had. Mm-hmm. And I think that was pretty good. And yeah, you just do lots of reading and watch tutorials and do everything that you can do to use that time. Because I didn't want to be one of those people who said, oh, I don't know what to do with my time during like working from home. Or there's so many things you can do,
right? Especially
in our industry. There's so many things that you want to learn, like Phoenix, for example, doing simulations and stuff. You know, there's never enough time.
Why do you want to learn those things?
So you can use it. I don't need someone else to do it.
Okay. That's good. That seems like I was saying you shouldn't learn it. I'm glad you want to learn Phoenix, but what did you want to do? Like you seem like you're chasing something.
Yeah.
And you're having a great time chasing these things and running around. You want to travel, obviously.
Yeah.
There's an I don't want to travel. Actually, well, to be honest, the COVID thing allowed me to not travel for a long time, and that was actually kind of nice for me.
Yeah.
But what do you want to do? Like, what are some of the things that you're ambitious? Your work is great, and if it's gotten better because of COVID, then that's even better.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So basically now, after all of this, what happened during COVID, I ended up back in Germany for 4 months.
Right.
And I didn't want to stay there because it was cold, and I accidentally moved to Dubai. And I kind of settled down in Dubai now. I've got a cat. It's like...
How did you accidentally move to Dubai? I don't understand how that accidentally happens.
So I only wanted to go for 1 or 2 months.
Okay.
Because then I thought, okay, I think I'll just go back to the UK after that. But because COVID was still so bad, I just didn't go back.
Okay.
And I applied for this, it's like a working from home visa.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've got like a really nice life there, good health insurance. I really can't complain.
Okay.
And I work for all those companies in London, so I do the freelancing for them.
Right.
And it gives me lots of like insights on how they run their company, what are kind of projects they have. I've been working on lots of projects in the Middle East. Which is nice because I live there, so I get like all the references for like plants and stuff just in front of my house.
Right.
So I think this is very beneficial, and yeah, I just stayed there. I never planned on moving there totally.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really happy at the moment.
Well, that's cool. Do you still like architecture?
Yes. I mean, Dubai is really inspiring as well, just because it has this very weird kind of mix of architecture. So the buildings are a bit like American with an Asian influence. Mm-hmm. Then the interior design is like totally crazy, but really, really high end. And
It's
so,
a lot of money.
yeah. And everything that's gold is probably gold.
Right.
But
And there's a lot of gold.
everything is gold. But it's really interesting to go to restaurants or bars and see the interior design, how they do things. And it's always good to have like real life references and how they do the lighting. And that's really, really beneficial if you want to do the jobs there.
Yeah.
And then also I like to go to Dubai Mall and check out all those designer shops like Gucci or like all those big brands and to see the interior design that they do because it's so high quality and so detailed and it's really, really fascinating. I think most of the people are just too scared to walk inside.
Right.
But as an architect or interior designer, I think you should have a look.
Right. Yeah, I think it's fascinating. Dubai is an interesting place for sure. I mean, what is your thoughts? I mean, you mentioned, one of the things that sort of pushed you over into doing things was Inception, right?
Yeah.
So do you have an interest? Was it Inception interesting to you because of how they portrayed architecture, or because you realized that computer graphics could portray architecture in a specific way?
I think both. So in the beginning, it was how they portrayed architecture, and then the second part was the other thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because when I used to be an architect and I used to do those things, I basically was interested in finding out like, hey, what is architecture going to I loved architecture design in a lot of ways, but I got really good at visualization like you.
Yeah.
But I didn't. After a while, I started to realize that I actually didn't care about building the building anymore.
Yeah.
Do you care about that? Or you just like the picture and the narrative?
A little bit. I still care about it. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. But not too much. I know anyways that when you have like a flat in New York and they have this massive column in it, they're gonna shrink it down.
Right.
Because it's too big in the picture. So.
Right.
And it's completely unrealistic.
Right.
But yeah, I still care about the buildings. Yeah. I still care about what's going to be possible or not.
Right.
But it's really interesting now that I'm getting more familiar with different kind of areas in Dubai. I see different kind of styles of architecture and I look at it and look at all the details and I'm like, okay, the section is going to be like this. But I know this cannot, they cannot transfer this kind of architecture somewhere else because it doesn't work with the climate.
Right.
Because if there's rain, then this is not gonna work anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but what do you think about okay, so Germany, you went to Italy for a little bit, you went to London, you went to New York, you've obviously in LA, and then you go to Dubai, right? So you are passionate about architecture, obviously. I'm not saying that, but you're seeing it. What is your take on all of that? You've seen a lot of different kinds of architecture. What's your take on where architecture is today?
I think the more money you have, the more crazy things you can do.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think it's interesting.
Okay.
It's really cool. Dubai is probably one of the best cities to experience that.
Right.
Yeah. So I think at Germany especially, it's just really boring. Nothing has really happened in the last 20 years that was outstanding. But yeah, like all the other cities, they're just leading the game.
Yeah.
When you see what like Hederick does, it's just incredible.
But is that the case? I mean, I know it's always been the case where there's money, there's going to be great architecture, right? But also the question is taste, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned gold as an example at Dubai, which I know, there's a culture, certain cultures like to show how much money they have, and they put gold everywhere to show how much money they have. Now, is that also the case, or do you feel that somehow you're Dubai, so you'll hire Rem Koolhaas or Björk Ingels or whatever, and say, okay, and then they're going to make something great, and they're going to tamper down the gaudiness of the architecture. Is that where do you think the taste is going to happen?
Yeah, I think there should be some kind of balance.
Right.
So that's difficult to get the balance right. And in Dubai, everything is like on top. So I think actually the balance is okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, who's making those decisions in Dubai?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know who does the master planning for that, but I've seen some really cool buildings.
Yeah.
They have a really nice museum. It's called the Etihad Museum. Mm-hmm. It's probably the most impressive museum I've seen.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of museums. So, yeah. Also the expo in Dubai.
Yes.
It's huge. I've been to one in Milan in 2015.
Yep.
You cannot compare that. It's absolutely outstanding what they shown or what they're showing at the moment, and I recommend to everyone go.
Right.
Until 31st of March. I go every week twice.
Okay.
Because it's so big, and I always find new things, and there's so many pavilions, and I just want to indulge all of it.
Right.
And yeah, it's really, really inspiring. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think, there's an interesting thing about architecture. They all have their moments that are interesting. Like here I am, I'm in Los Angeles, and although you can't see it because this house has been modified by the previous owner, but this is one of those classic mid-century houses.
I know. I saw that when I came.
Right?
It's really cool.
So it's like, it's got all this glass everywhere. And like, it's actually when we moved here, we was like, this is so beautiful. There's so much light coming in, and we realized there's actually not enough wall to hang a picture on because there's so much glass.
Did they build this in the 50s?
Yeah, 1952, I think this was.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it's been around for a while, and it's that is sort of like that moment, right? So California's moment of architecture was.
To be honest, this is what I picture when I think of California.
Right, that's what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
So like the 50s was that moment where California was booming, right? Yeah. The movie industry was booming. Everyone was moving to LA. Yeah. And so you had that sort of moment of architecture that I think is really fascinating. And to me, I love it, so I'm lucky. But 1950s is actually a long time ago. So that's not, even though it's called modernism, it's kind of old.
But it's timeless.
It is. Is it timeless? I mean,
I think it's timeless design.
Yeah. Right now it's very popular too, which is good.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting. So I'm wondering about like places like Dubai. Like,
is it going to be timeless?
Is it going to be timeless?
Good question.
It's going to be special. You mentioned cities, for example, right?
Yeah.
And you love architecture, as you do, and you said living in New York is great. If you have an opportunity, I recommend you go to Chicago.
Ah, yeah. I've got friends there as well.
You should go to Chicago because you will see a different a face of modernism with Mies van der Rohe.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
And that, I think, to be honest, when I was going through Chicago and I look at the city and I love New York. I love New York. But Chicago to me I was like, oh yeah, there's really great architecture in Chicago. And I walk through the city and I'm going, to see the most pristine minimalist Mies van der Rohe building was just amazing. And then next to it, you'll see like a Louis Sullivan building, which is very ornate.
That sounds very good.
And it's really kind of special. I do miss architecture. I tell you, it's interesting. But anyway, let's get back to some computer graphic stuff. I want to get back to some of that. We'll go back and forth.
Yeah.
Computer graphics. Okay, so what got you interested in doing that? What was the visualization part of things that you're like, I want to see this? I know you said Inception.
Yeah.
But what was it about Inception that said, I want to see this photorealistically? What got you interested in that?
I think Inception was the first movie where I realized what computer graphics can do.
Ah.
So.
How old were you when you saw that movie?
Maybe 14, 15, I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe younger, I don't know.
Right.
But so for the first time I realized, there's something that combines architecture with visualization. Yeah. But I had no idea what is this.
Right.
And I mean, as an architect, you think of, we're just gonna build those small, like single family townhouses, and my client wants to see how it's gonna look like.
Right.
So I always thought it's gonna be cool if I can show them before they actually invest all this money and how they can transform it into something they want to do.
Right.
So I think this was always pretty cool. And then, yeah, you just get into all those huge projects, and it's amazing when you see what they do in New York or like the Middle East, how they transform like no man lands into artificial islands and resorts, and it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
They make islands out of nothing.
yeah. They just put a palm in the middle of the ocean.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's crazy what is possible. And of course they need people to visualize those
Right.
ideas. And yeah, I think now is the time, like even more than 5 years ago, because everyone wants to know how it's gonna look like. Because everyone thinks, oh, this is so easy to do.
But do you like the visualization process?
Yeah, I love that.
You love it?
Yeah, and I'm really happy if I get a job where I can actually bring in my own design skills as well.
Okay. Does that happen?
It happens, yeah. Sometimes I get booked for that, so
Okay.
so that's really fun. Yeah, those are my best jobs. But otherwise, it's just nice if I get something from the client, like they want this and this and this, and I make it look really nice. But
Right.
then sometimes they realize, oh, this is terrible design. Let's change everything.
Right.
That happens probably in 50% of the cases.
Oh, when they see their actual project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a design project, so the process is always like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I actually, I find it one of the things that that really attracted me towards visualization is and actually even architecture, and this applies to just design in general, is story.
Yeah.
There's a story that you tell when you do architecture, and there's a story you tell when you do visualization, right?
Yeah.
And I love that story thing, and I think when I used to be doing architecture, and I would see, or even in architecture school,
Yeah.
like you were, the best projects were not always the best buildings. They were the best story about the buildings,
Yeah.
right? And so to me, when I started going into the movie industry, I started realizing it's the same thing. Like
Yeah.
if you can tell stories through pictures,
Yeah.
that makes sense. What's your thoughts? What is the kind of stories that you want to tell through your pictures?
I personally don't like any people in my images.
Yeah.
So I think it makes the story part maybe a bit harder. But what I like and what people book me for is making vignettes. So
Okay.
I do a lot of close-ups, and I think with close-ups you can also tell a story really well without showing too much. So it gives you this really intimate feeling about something,
Right.
and it makes you feel like you are there. And I think most of the time this is what the clients love for, like social media, and that's what their customers like as well.
Social media. So how has social media changed ArchViz?
Sometimes I try to do a social media break because I think it's so exhausting.
Okay.
But I think it's gotten a bit better. Yeah, it's nice to see all my friends' work. But I think with all the ads that you get on Instagram nowadays, social media is terrible. It's really hard to actually find what you're looking for. And I just use it mainly to save references.
Okay. Well, that's for your experience, but what do you think it's done to architecture visualization? Like, what are the things that you have to do to make it ready for, like, if I did a rendering, it's like, it was to print it, went back, this is how old I am, right? It was to print it out and put it on a foam core and put it inside the building, like, check out your building.
Yeah.
That's what we did. I didn't have to make something that fit in a square on your phone so you can flip through it. So how has that changed the world of architecture visualization?
I definitely think it's changed because now people just started doing cinematographs. So, like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 second loops that they put on like Instagram stories, things like that. And then obviously they want to fit the Instagram story ratio, or so the ratio has changed a bit for the images.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, it's all about likes. So
It's all about likes, right?
so if you just make something that's really crazy because it's a room, it's just green, and it probably gets a lot of likes. It goes viral and everything. Yeah, that's what the people are after.
So you have to make that. Well, that's interesting. So the choices you make are for something to stand out. In order for it to stand out, you have to do something crazy.
Yeah.
Do you like doing that?
No.
No?
That's why I don't do it.
That's why you don't do it. Okay.
I think I'm pretty shy as well on social media. I don't really like to post a lot of things. It's a lot of work as well. I mean, you almost need a social media manager to deal with all the comments, and then people try to promote it and put money on it.
Right.
And it's something that you need to understand. Otherwise, you just lose that money, or
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I find I am much happier in social media if I don't go as myself,
Yeah.
but if I make a persona of myself
Yeah.
that is for that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like my persona on Facebook is mainly geared towards podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I'm the podcaster, and my persona on Instagram, believe it or not, I try to have a different one, is all about my passion for fishing, right?
I know, I saw that. It's really cool.
So that's
really
it.
cool.
Like, but everything else about me is different, right? Because I don't want people into my personal life. I don't think it's the right thing
Yeah.
to do, and I don't want my social media, mining my personal data in that way. So
Exactly.
I find that there's a value to that. But it's interesting because, I was always thinking, it's like, well, what is it like to be as an ArchViz person? It's like, yeah, you have to create Instagram renders and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, lots of people are doing that, and I think they're really successful.
good.
But I don't know. I'm not that kind of person. So
Yeah. Do you do animations?
I've worked on a lot recently. Yeah.
A lot. What kind of animations? Well, like, what's the state of animations today in ArchViz? Like, what's it look like?
It's not like fly-throughs anymore.
Good.
But I feel like it's always just this really slow, like moving into a room, moving to the side, maybe moving a little bit up in a curve.
Okay.
Um,
Just slow cameras.
Very slow. Everything is very slow.
Uh-huh.
I don't think this has really changed in the past 5 years.
Right.
I mean, there's some studios that make some cool animations and stuff, and they work with basically VFX companies together. That's why they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
But what you see on a daily basis, I don't want to say it's disappointing, but I guess it's what the clients want, and the budget is not there to make more.
Do you think, you said this is what the clients want, do you think you have a responsibility as an ArchViz person to actually go to your clients and educate them on something in terms of how it could be better?
Yeah, I mean, if someone comes and says, I want a fly-through, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
There's so much more that you can do. Like, you can even just put in more money in images, and they're going to be nicer than a fly-through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was my lawn used to say, like, if a client actually asked for that, say, why don't I sit you down in a wheelbarrow and roll around into a building and tell me how much you like that experience? Because, yeah. And in film, they always think you need the camera moving forward to go from room to room. It's like, in a movie, the only time a camera moves forward is if it's chasing you and it's a horror film. So it's not going to be a good experience.
No, I don't know.
Yeah. What kind of stories do you want to tell?
In architecture, good question. I feel it's always like feeling home, probably.
Feeling home.
Yeah. If it's a new apartment building, you wanna feel like, oh, if you want to buy this, oh, I feel so home in this. I feel comfortable, like sitting by the pool, enjoying my time.
Right.
Yeah, something like that.
That's funny because you're so nomadic in so many ways.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's interesting. I think there's so there's a comfortness that you like to say, the story of comfort, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think no one ever sold this to me, so that's why I'm still moving around.
You haven't found your comfort zone. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting. There's a lot of things that are, that are the narratives that are done in architecture or around architecture. Has there, besides Inception, what are some of the films that you've that may have inspired some of the ways you look at things?
Um, I really like Mr. Robot.
Oh, Mr. Robot, interesting.
Yeah, I really like that twist at the end. Was very, very good. I really like the new James Bond.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Maybe the Joker as well.
All right.
So those kind of movies, I think they've inspired me a lot, but I feel like I cannot really take those inspirations and bring it into architectural visualizations because it's too difficult. Like no client is gonna buy that.
Okay. But what if you did something for yourself?
Yeah.
Have you done something for yourself?
I did a project last year, basically for myself, where I tested a new V-Ray 5 GPU.
Mm-hmm.
But this was also just like a condo, but no, I don't really do many crazy things because I think at the end, if a potential client is gonna look at this, they're not gonna buy it.
Right.
That's my kind of thinking.
Right.
Or that's also something that people told me. They always told me, do something you think someone will buy.
I don't know. I would disagree.
Yeah.
I've seen, first of all, you need to do it for yourself so that so you actually go through the exercise of seeing what you wish you could see.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a good thing. But I've actually heard certain people say that they do that so that if there's a customer that's the right customer that comes around or a right client that comes around, they say, this is what I did. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that was possible. So it's your best way to illustrate what you would like to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think there's possibilities in that. I just spoke to Victor at Beauty and the Bit.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was telling me about, that's why he did the
that's
videos
why he
it
did
is.
all the Unreal stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he could do that.
That's cool.
Yeah. What's your thoughts about real time?
I think it's amazing. Especially what Victor pulls out.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything he does, it just gets better and better.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first one that he did from Megascan or Quixel,
Mm-hmm.
like it was outstanding. I didn't think he could do anything better, but then he takes it to the next level again.
Right.
But it's great. I mean, he has a team behind him who helps him with like everything.
Right.
And I think those things are really hard if you are just one person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's I really like the Megascans guys. Actually, they came by the office in Culver City a couple times,
Yeah.
and they're really cool. The thing is that it works really well for things like what Victor did, right?
Yeah,
it works really well for like rocks and Iceland and moss.
For architecture, it's still not 100% there.
It isn't, but that's okay. The technology just needs to grow. I mean, or their library needs to grow. But their library's already really big.
It's big, yeah.
It's big. But the thing that I've always had a problem with a little bit with some of the stuff that is in Unreal, and I really like Unreal, honestly speaking. I've been working in Unreal for a long time, so I'm not saying that. But the problem I have is that I graduated from rasterized rendering back in 2005 and I didn't want to go back, and now I feel like I'm forced to go back, and I don't want to do that, and I feel that I want to continue to go to ray tracing. So that's been my goal, is like, how can I continue ray tracing but still enjoy all the benefits of real time? So what do you think? What are your thoughts about ray tracing versus rasterizing? I know that's a complicated technical question for you.
I think ray tracing just has gotten so good. That everyone should look into it. And you're a Corona user too, right? Yeah. And I've just got a new workstation in Dubai, which was amazing because I ordered it and 2 days later I had it. And wow, they were super fast. They had everything in stock, and now I can just go crazy when I come back and do all those things I always wanted to do because I know this machine is a beast. Nice. And yeah, it's going to be lots of ray tracing.
Lots of ray tracing. What's your thoughts on Corona?
It's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I started maybe with Corona 1.6.
Okay.
Now we are Corona 7, and the caustic stuff is super cool.
I was going to ask you about that.
So I think everyone now loves doing those pool images and animations, and it's still a bit difficult to get caustics in a room without any sunlight. So that takes ages and ages to process.
Right.
But most of the time you don't do this anyways.
Right.
But yeah, I think since V-Ray took over, or since KS Group took over, it's improved a lot. And of course, it also improved V-Ray a lot. And I'm a big fan of the light mix, to be honest. I always set the light mix up for every scene I do.
Right.
So it takes 2 minutes, and then at the end, I just do really cool vignettes, just change a few things, and it's so easy, and it takes like 10 minutes done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think, I mean, I've spoken to the Corona guys many times, and we talked to them, and they're very smart. And yeah, I think you're right. You know, it was like a lot of people sort of thought about Corona and Chaos joining as like one's just going to kill off the other. But what's very interesting is that many years have gone by, and we still kept both teams. And many times, you know, once or twice a year, they get together and just have these hackathons.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of great things have come out of that, like, you know, like the caustics thing and all these other
That's cool.
things.
I actually use both now. I was almost a Corona only user, but then when I did the project for NVIDIA last year, I had to use V-Ray.
Oh, right.
And it was
Tell us about the project.
So basically, I was asked to do this project for NVIDIA. They sent me this laptop from Razer.
Oh, right. Razer 15?
Yeah, exactly. Super nice laptop. And yeah, they said, you know, do whatever you want to do. And
how did you win this? How did you get involved with that?
On Facebook, I think. They asked me if they wanted to get some women involved into the industry.
Okay.
And so they asked me if I can do a project for them. I can do whatever I want to do. I have to produce some YouTube tutorials about it. And I think I worked on it maybe for 2 weeks. Yeah, so I built this small apartment in San Francisco, and I produced maybe 7 images or something for them on V-Ray 5 GPU because...
yeah, you need to use a GPU.
Yeah, exactly. But turned out it was great fun working on that, but the laptop is way, way, way too slow for that.
Oh, okay.
So with my new laptop, this is gonna take maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes or something.
Is that the computer you just ordered?
Oh, yeah.
It's a laptop.
No, it's a PC, sorry.
It's a PC, okay.
I'm so used to laptops.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really fun and really cool getting into V-Ray again. Because I thought, oh my god, this is going to be such a big challenge. But because V-Ray and Corona are so close, like it was so easy.
Yeah, well, V-Ray 5 has a light mix now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that was super cool testing the light mix and all the layer system. And I think V-Ray nowadays is amazing. So when I do projects now, I do V-Ray and Corona projects. Depends on the project what I want to use.
Right.
And yeah, I'm really happy with both of them. So yeah, because some clients don't want to use Corona for some reason for animations, I think it's faster in V-Ray. So I can use both.
I've always found that Corona, you know, well, I don't use Corona unfortunately because I don't have time to learn everything. But what I've seen in renders that Corona does a really beautiful job in interior shots.
Yeah.
And I think I don't want to credit Corona for that. I want to credit the artist who did it. But nonetheless, every time I see a Corona render, there's something a little bit different about the way the interior looks. I think the Global Illumination has something that's a little bit special that I'm not sure I can identify.
Yeah.
I definitely know that V-Ray can do the same things, but it just seems that there are certain defaults that work a little bit different.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot really see a difference anymore, to be honest. I think that we were really caught up to that level.
Yeah.
I actually think that now my V-Ray clay renderings look better than my Corona clay renderings. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about your speed?
I think Vira is faster.
Vira is faster.
Yeah, but I love both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think is gonna change the way you work? Like, and we mentioned real time a little bit. Obviously, I think that's going to influence all of us. But what are the things that you think that are coming up in the future that you're looking forward to?
I think maybe better defaults for materials.
Defaults for materials?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe if I want to say, oh, this is a fabric, then it gets maybe like a fabric-y kind of like bump already.
Right.
Because I always think, oh, it's a bit painful to put in just a bump map and it's always the same thing.
Right.
Of course, there are some materials that come with the software already, but they're most of the time not that amazing.
Right.
Or I don't know, I think the reflection can somehow improve as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tiny things.
What's wrong with the reflections right now?
I just look at the real life reflection. I think it doesn't look the same.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but I guess it's some kind of like algorithm behind it that's not 100% there, maybe 95.
Yeah. Well, I remember this from car renderings, right? So I used to do a lot of car renderings. And car renderings, they always looked way too shiny in CG. And the biggest reason for this is that people would not apply the right Fresnel value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that.
To there, and so they always look like Christmas balls, right? So they're not. So I think that's the thing, is like people have to like less is more, especially in reflection. So I think that's the case, because honestly speaking, if you do things correctly with a ray tracer, 1-to-1, it should look the same. It should look identical. So that's the thing I think is interesting. Do you think people should render things based on how they see things or how they photograph things?
I mean, the thing with photos is still that there's so much post on it. Yeah. I think. And some people, they put like flashlights, like artificial flashlights, I call them, because then they put so many images in one image and it looks like, oh, you've got all those like nice highlights, but in real life you don't actually have that.
Sure.
So yeah, I think it's good to know how like certain spaces feel, because it's your like memory. No one can take that from you. But then also, of course, you have to sell something, so you put highlights and you put fake lights and everything, and I really hate doing that. But what I realize most of the time is that when I get projects to do, the lighting design is really bad. It's actually not. It's not our fault that there's not enough highlights. It's the fault of the lighting designer, because there are not enough spotlights, like in the ceiling or something. I think this is one of the main issues why we have to fix it.
Right. So do you give some of those feedbacks to the designers, saying, hey, by the way, the spotlights are, that's the way the lighting is in the apartment?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, I have to fake things.
Right.
That's not how it's supposed to be, and it's just gonna be dark.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, and that's why I always say go into shops, because they have great lighting designs.
Shops do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have to sell things.
Yeah, so especially if you go in London, if you go to Victoria's Secret, they have amazing lighting design. They're not the way how the light falls on the different pieces. It's incredible.
Right.
Yeah. So definitely go into shops and look at the ceiling, and don't just look at the products. And have a look why it looks like this. For example, if you go to like Hollister, everything is really dark.
Okay.
I don't know why everything is so dark, because it's not really good. But just go somewhere where it's bright and everything, the atmosphere feels nice. So I mean, that's what we want to achieve, I think. Right.
I think it'd be strange if my house was lit like Victoria's Secret.
At least not all of it.
At least not all of it.
Yeah. But also, if you go to like car shops.
Yes. Showrooms.
Showrooms, yeah, because you want to see like the glare on the edge of the cars and stuff. So that's really important.
Yeah. Do you enjoy lighting?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy the lighting part? What's your
totally.
favorite part of the process of doing a rendering?
Probably looking for vignettes, but that's for me at the end of the project.
Okay.
So that's when everything's perfect already. So it's the easy part, but yeah, lighting has to be perfect, so it has to be done from the beginning.
Right.
Sometimes, unfortunately, it happens like later in the project because then the people realize, oh no, something is wrong, and then you have to do everything again, and it's not so nice. But yeah, lighting materials.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so lighting and materials. What do you like about materials?
I definitely like to balance all of them in the image so that the whole image has like a harmony to it. Yeah, because most of the time you can't make the red like it is on the reference because it's too red.
Right.
And then it's not going well with the blue or something like that. So I think I like that I have to kind of like color grade my entire image by myself.
Yeah.
So I don't just make it how they tell me, and then it just doesn't look nice because then I have to send something that's not nice.
Do you do a lot of post?
No.
No.
I try to balance everything in 3D.
Really? Okay. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you like doing that?
Just because later on, like if I want to do vignettes, then everything's perfect.
Oh, then you have to do it twice.
Yeah. Because if I do it in Photoshop, it's just too much work, and I have to do it for every image. No, so everything has to be in 3D.
So you do a lot more work because you're lazy. That's a good thing.
Yeah, but it saves me time at the end.
Yes, it does. That's good planning.
But to be honest, I think that if I get a project, for me it's 80% thinking about it and 20% doing it.
Okay.
I think a lot about my project when I go somewhere, like even if I just have a drink, I think about how I do things, and then I just go and do it. While I think 3 years ago, I was just jumping into the project, did many things, and then it didn't really work out that well, I think. But now I'm much more efficient and, yeah, maybe more experienced as well.
That's good.
Yeah, so it's much easier.
It sounds like you've grown quite a bit in 3 years.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Do you enjoy that? I mean, do you feel it yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I also help a lot of people who are like really junior or who want to make a step in the industry. So they contact me, they ask me, oh, hey, can you give me some feedback on my portfolio or on images? And then I try to send them all my comments and what I would like to do. And then it's on them if they do it or not.
Do you think you have a role as a mentor now?
Yeah, I think so. I've had this for a few years, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like it because I love helping people. I mean, I had such a hard way getting into this industry, and I just want it to be as easy as possible for them.
Right.
So I give them all my advice that I have. And yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned like NVIDIA gave you a laptop because they want to promote women in the industry, right? So that's a thing that unfortunately still needs to be made.
Yeah.
Right. Do you feel that you have a voice there as a woman in the industry? Do you feel that you can represent that call? I mean, Keely's obviously doing a great job in that in some ways, and I know you're going to meet up. Did you meet up with her yet or not yet?
I think on the weekend. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, I mean, do you think you have a responsibility there in some ways?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you like that responsibility?
Yes, I love it. No, I mean, there's nothing better than that. I mean, if you can help someone in any way, I do it, yeah.
I mean, what do you think, why do you think it's so challenging somehow to do that? I mean, obviously, I spoke to Jeff Muddle about it, a long time ago about CG Architects. It's like, there are actually even less women in ArchViz than there are even in visual effects.
Yeah.
Right? Why is that the case?
I think most of the women are maybe more shy than men.
Why should that affect it?
Because maybe like me, I don't want to show my work online a lot.
Okay.
So I think maybe women struggle with it a bit more because I think men want to show off more.
Right.
I think it's a very manly thing to like show off like cars or like, hey, I did this.
Right.
I think women don't really do this that much.
Okay. Should they do it more?
Yeah.
But you've been telling me that it was hard for you to do that, and you don't like being on Instagram and all that other stuff. So
yeah, but luckily I already made the step and like lots of connections. But for people who haven't done that, for them it's really important to get their work online. And I think really the CG Architect platform is really good because there's a lot of recognition from like other studios as well.
Right.
And I think since the update, I think last year, it's been really great uploading your projects over there.
Right.
It's similar to Behance, but I think I like the CG Architect one more because you can see like, for example, Peter Guthrie liked my project or something like that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's within our industry, so I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's good. I think there's great. I find it sad that we have to promote women specifically in ArchViz because that means that they've been an underrepresented minority.
Yeah.
And it's not fair. There's no reason why women should be underrepresented in ArchViz.
I think the issue comes actually from the universities because people think this is such a technical job.
Right.
But it's not. It's very creative. Yeah, it's just a few.
But so what if it's technical? Women are technical too.
Yeah, but I think most of the people I know, they're like, oh no, this seems so difficult. Like, how am I gonna do this? It's so easy. Just watch 2 tutorials and then you can do it.
Okay, listen, but there's no reason why women aren't smart and technical too.
Yeah, of course. But that's what they think. They think this is too technical. This is like a boy's job.
But this is what frustrates me. Women can be very technical and very good and very talented. In fact, I'm working with a woman. I know this woman. She's way more technical than I am. I have to work with. In fact, I go to her and say, "I can't figure it out. Can you help me figure it out?"
Yeah.
That's the way. It doesn't. Your gender should not designate whether you should do something technical or not. However, I do think there's a role that women have that their gender offers that is something that is missing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned your vignettes and your seeking of comfort at home, right? That is not typically a masculine portrait of architecture.
I've never thought about it. Yeah, maybe that's true.
And that's an advantage. That's a unique point of view that you have to offer that I think represents 51% of the population.
Yeah.
That I think should be taken advantage of. Because look at you're using Max and V-Ray and Corona, and I know they're not easy programs to learn, but it doesn't mean just because you're a woman that you'll not be able to do that. I think that's the thing that frustrates me a little bit. I'm glad you're doing this voice. I'm glad you're out there representing that.
Yeah.
Have you been able to inspire women to do that, you think?
Yeah, I've talked to a few and they now have jobs in London or different countries, and I think I don't know if I was a big help or not, but they definitely have a nice job now, so
I'll tell you this, it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And it comes back to you.
Yeah.
It'll come back to you as a benefit in some ways. I mean, I love mentoring people a lot. I think it's a way to selfishly, it makes you feel good. But that's, I think, something that's very interesting. What we can do for people and give back to the community.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who was your mentor?
Who was my mentor? Yeah, I want to say Ian Banks.
Ian Banks?
Yeah.
Who's he?
He was my basically former boss from Recent Spaces.
Right.
And yeah, he showed me a lot, and he showed me like how he sees things.
Right.
In 3ds Max.
Right.
But also in real life because he's a really good photographer as well.
Right.
So lots of credits goes to him.
Good.
But yeah, Alex as well. That's his business partner from Recent Spaces. So they did a really good job in educating my eye for certain shots like that. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but I'm happy because 2.5 years ago, basically had this one follower on Instagram who knew I was in the industry. He's from India, I think much younger than I am, and he got into 3D, and he was like, "Oh, Isabel, can you give me some comments, or can you look at my work?" I was like, "Of course I can do that." Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy for him because he has improved so much. He has now his own office somewhere in India. I think he also has like staff now, and he's doing really well. And it's like, wow, this is so inspiring, even for me, how you can grow just in a few years from like freelancing to being your own small business owner and having like a vision, like getting your stuff and things like this.
It's so interesting. You never really know where you're going to be able to influence people.
Yeah.
Just little helpful things. I'll give you a story that was this is a long time ago. I was thinking about possibly looking into going to visual effects at one point. And I knew this is a long time ago, and I was looking at the work that Blur was doing.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Right. And so I just literally found the number in the phone book and called them, and said, "Hey, I'm interested in doing this. What do I need to do to apply for a job at Blur?" And I had the receptionist on the phone, right? Her name is Betty. Okay. She still works at Blur. She's still the receptionist.
Oh, nice.
And she's amazing. And I've worked on a lot of projects with Blur recently. And so I'm great friends with them. And so whenever I go in, I see Betty, she gives me a big hug, and she's fantastic. Right. But this was, over 20 years ago. And I went up and she said, and she just was like, "Well, what do you have?" I was like, "Well, I have this, that." And she goes, "Well, I tell you what you got to do. You have to have a really kick-ass demo reel. No one's going to take you seriously unless you have a really good demo reel, because that's the only thing that Tim's going to look at, or blah, 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 blah."
Yeah,
and she basically told me that. I said, "Oh, okay. All right." And so after I got off the phone with her, I was like, I got to have a new plan. I got to really work on my demo reel. These architectural renderings that I was doing are not necessarily going to cut it. I got to think bigger, got to think movies, and I started really rethinking everything. But I remember being on the phone with her, forever, and how it really changed the way I saw everything. And then it wasn't until 20 years later or whatever, and I'm hanging out, and I'm going to Blur into the Betty. It's like, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Betty, do you know that you were on the phone with me 20 plus years ago, and you basically gave me guidance for my career that changed everything?"
She changed your life.
She changed my life. And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "I'm serious." And I was like this, and I told her the whole story, and I told it to Tim as well, And she's like, and it's like, yeah, it's amazing how just a little bit, 5 minutes of conversation can change.
But you got to the right person. Very lucky as well.
Yes, and it's not always the person you think it is.
Yeah.
This, Betty worked as a receptionist at Blur, right? Yeah, and she definitely knows what's going on at Blur.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But you wouldn't expect the receptionist at Blur to give you some career advice, and she did, and she was great. And I really liked it, and it sort of made me sort of rethink everything. So I always think that's right. I think it's great that you're giving back to the community.
Yeah,
at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, I've asked people for advice. They give me advice. I just give it to the next person. So and I hope they will do the same. Yeah,
for sure. Sure. Well, listen, we've actually gone over an hour. Can you believe it?
Wow.
So this is really cool. And I appreciate you coming by. We're the first person to do an in-person podcast in 18 months. So it's been a big deal for me. So I appreciate that doing that. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for inviting me.